Good afternoon, and today I'd like to talk about this book, The Book of the Glory of the Black Race by Al-Jahiz, published by, if I can have a look at it, Simon Starr of the House of Starr Publishers, which I think that means it's self-published. Now, this must have the honour of being one of the first books to argue for the dignity and equality of black people in history. It was written in the 9th century by the Arab polymath Al-Jahiz, and was written to defend and support the Zanj rebellion against the Iraqi Arabs. The Zanj were what the Arabs called the black people in one particular part of Africa. They had several names for black Africans, depending on where they were. And in the 8th century, the Iraqis, the Iraqis enslaved the Zanj and imported them into Iraq to work as agricultural labourers in cultivating and reclaiming some of the deserts. And recently there have been archaeological excavations and reports which have found these, or their remains of them. In the 9th century they rebelled against their enslavement and rose up against their Arab overlords. Al-Jahiz himself is a fascinating figure. He wrote a lot on philosophy, theology, Arab grammar and rhetoric, and also the natural world. He had a very close idea of how closely plants and animals were linked together, as part of a whole. People have seen this since and suggested that he was the first person to formulate a theory of, or one of the first people to formulate a theory of evolution. You can find a similar idea of natural selection in Lucretius on the Nature of Things. However, he didn't. He was very orthodox in his belief that the world and all its creatures are being created by Allah. What he did find, and sort of prefigure, was the modern science of ecology. So he should be respected for that. His grandfather was black, and this undoubtedly made him sympathetic to the Zanj's plight. Now, it begins with Al-Jahiz begins with by stating and retelling some of the great witticisms and aphorisms of black leaders. He talks a lot about the great generalship and leadership of the black chiefs involved in the rebellion and their victories, obviously. He also talks, several times he also confronts the issue of blackness. Now, the Arabs are developed, in the Quran, racism is condemned. Muslims aren't supposed to distinguish between black and white. However, a vicious anti-black racism developed in the Arab world during the Middle Ages because of the African slave trade. And Al-Jahiz takes care to attack this. He says that black people have their black colour not from any judgment of God or any sin or whatever, but simply as an adaptation to the climate and the environment in which they work in. If Arabs worked in these conditions as well, they too would, their skins would also darken. And he also notes the existence of, I think, 3 black Arab tribes. He also turns the tables on them at one point by saying, well, the Arabs are, they're also dark. They're a lighter shade than black people, but they're still dark. And Mohammed said that he came for both the black and the red. So the Arabs aren't red people, they're black people. So really, Mohammed came to save black people. And this is how he turns the table on Arabs to make blacks the true recipients of the Islamic revelation. And he goes on. Some of it gets coarse, I have to say. At one point, he accuses 3 Arab tribes of having a perverted interest in farm animals, is how we should say it. I think I should put it. And he also, and at the end of the book, where he is celebrating the black victories over the Arabs, he then celebrates the rape of the Arab women, which is revolting. I know it was written in the 9th century. I know it's what armies do even today, but even so, it's not something you want to read, and it's not something that you want to see someone celebrate. Now, if I do have a problem with the book, that section of the book, it's the fact that perhaps there should be more footnotes, because he refers to various people and various great leaders and great generals and battles, and the casual reader has no idea who they are. I dare say you could look them up on Wikipedia or on the internet, but a few footnotes explaining who some of these people were, some of these generals, some of these chiefs, would have been helpful. Now, Al-Jahiz's book is only part of this volume, and there's only 33 pages of it. And Al-Jahiz himself ends abruptly by saying, that's all I can think of to defend the Zanj, so I shall end it here, after continuing for 33 pages. The rest of the book is a religious meditation and explanation on how all good things in the universe were created by the Atum, which guides them all. The Atum, or Atum, is one of the ancient Egyptian gods, and this goes on for over 50 pages. Now, it looks like a bit of Kemetics. Kemetics is new black American religious movement formulated from ancient Egyptian paganism. I don't know much about it, and this sadly won't actually tell you, because it is very much the author's own personal views, and so you don't know how far these are linked, to Kemetics, if at all, assuming that they're not his own very personal views. And there's no notes explaining these, so you're left very much like take it or leave it, I suppose. Starr himself appears to be an Afrocentrist, which means that he begins his book with a quotation from Count de Volney, the French explorer, who says that from the features of the Sphinx, the ancient Egyptians were black, and that's one of the doctrines of Afrocentrism, that the ancient Egyptians were a black civilization, and that Western civilization was basically stolen from them. Although Starr doesn't push it, he does. There is a list of his other books in there. which suggests that in some of these others, there's a fuller. These are more inclined towards an explanation of Afrocentrism. Though with some of them, he's got Jesus Christ, the misunderstood Messiah, then the road to greatness, enchanting wisdom of Native Americans, men made simple, and baby names of African origin. So, an Afrocentrist, but perhaps not not a racist. Anyway, that's Jahiz defending the Zanj. It's been the book is mentioned by people by scholars of Islam like Bernard Lewis, and he's certainly done, I think, the world a service in publishing it, even if in a cheap edition, even if of course you wish for some more additional information. In the introduction, there is, of course, biographical information about Al-Jahiz and about the Zanj rebellion, which will obviously be useful. Thank you for listening.